Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, what I have for you today is a story that I think it's about time I got to. 50 billion of you reached out to me to talk about this story, so thank you. And now I'm finally getting to it, so we're even? The reason it's taken me so long to talk about Nancy Brophy, Nan Bro, as I call her, is that, before I got into it, I figured it'd be a good idea to do my due diligence. And by that I mean I read some of her books. And boy was it tough going. They're just awful. But this story is bananas. Just like all of her stories. I can't wait to get into it, so let's give it a go. This story is a doozy. It's about an author, and if it was fictitious, in a bookstore it would be in the comedy section. They always say, you can't write this stuff. You can't make it up. They're right. But what you can write about is Portland. As Nancy loved to do, it's a setting in multiple stories. And it's the setting of this one. Specifically downtown Portland, city center. Among the buzz and hullabaloo of the boutiques, shops and restaurants, you'll find where your chef may have come from if you're eating in downtown Portland. That is the Oregon Culinary Institute. Wee wee. It's on the western side of town, just as things start to get hilly, and it's where, when you'd be running through the Pacific Rain to class, you would learn to cook. It was a private college where you might learn to plate a salad, sear a cod, and all the other cooking. Run a restaurant and whatnot. When I'm not burning toast at Hotels Kitchen, Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, I know nothing about cooking. It looks great though. Unfortunately, the Oregon Culinary Institute did not survive the COVID. The pandemic shut it down permanently. It had to lay off 131 staff in July 2020, so it probably wasn't doing too great anyway. And it shows no signs of opening back up. But at the time, it's not only where you could learn to cook, it's where you could go to eat. Yummy! People seem to have been fans. It wasn't expensive, as it was cooked by students, and it seemed to be pretty sweet. One of the instructors there was Chef Dan Brophy. He was good. He was a well-liked, popular instructor. A native Oregonian, he'd been working at the Oregon Culinary Institute for over 10 years. He'd been there since the very beginning.
My name is Daniel Brophy. I have been teaching since the Oregon Culinary Institute opened. My background in food spans approximately 45 years.
Customer said, is this a sushi bar?
Now he was lead chef instructor, and to quote his faculty biography, the resident encyclopedia of knowledge at the Institute. Look at you. He was not just a wizard in the kitchen, it seems. He knew marine biology, gardening, and mushrooms to a T. He could be grumpy when you met him. He shot from the hip and didn't like faffing about. But underneath, he was a big old bear. As I said, he was beloved by his students. He was the face of the Institute, according to the website, the most active faculty member, leading field trips, organized student projects, and spoke to the wider community. Quite a guy. So what happened then in June of 2018 not only shocked, the Institute, but it shocked the city of Portland, at large. The 2nd of June 2018, that day was a Saturday. Things are heating up in the middle of summer. Chef Dan Brophy, he was into the Oregon Culinary Institute early. He was gonna, head in, get set up for classes that would be taking place later on that day. He was first in. He had a good bit of prep to do for the day's classes before the students arrived. And so, shortly after 7 a.m., he went in, he opened the locks, he disarmed the alarms, and he was getting about his business. A fellow staff member arrived literally minutes after Dan did to the Institute, herself having to set up for the day. The students would be arriving any moment now, and she was the one who found him. 10 minutes after Dan walked in that very early Saturday morning, he walked into an empty building, he opened the locks, he turned off the alarms. He was now lying dead in the rear kitchen. His colleague, she came in, she saw him, she screamed. But he was, by this stage, there was nothing to be done.
911. Hi, we are at Oregon Culinary Institute. He's an older man. Is he conscious right now? No, he is not conscious.
By the time she called 911 and the EMTs arrived, students had begun filtering in, but he was gone. Dan Brophy had been shot twice, once in the back and again in the chest. Both bullets went through his heart.
Beloved teacher at the Oregon Culinary Institute is gunned down at the school.
It was early Saturday morning when students found 63-year-old Daniel Brophy on the floor at one of the school's kitchens.
It didn't look like a robbery or burglary gone wrong. I mean, who robs a culinary institute? And it didn't seem like there had been any kind of struggle. He still had his phone, his keys, his wallet. Police would cordon off the scene, and the murder investigation would begin in earnest. But only a few minutes after the police tape went up, Dan Brophy's wife arrived, having driven from Beaverton, which is about a 15-minute drive away.
Dan is your husband, is that correct?
Uh-huh.
So, I just want to let you know that we believe it's Dan that's been killed. Okay?
Yeah, I kind of got that when everybody gave me the sad sack look. Yeah. All I could think about is, oh my God.
Yeah, take one step at a time, okay?
I know. I'm sorry.
Just take it slow, and there's nothing you can, just not a lot of things you can do right now. Your mind's going a million miles per hour.
You
want to pause.
Here's the terrible thing. Okay? Even if you find who shot him, he's not going to bring him back. And I want him back. That's the part I want. I don't care about who shot him. I just want him back. I don't want him dead.
Her name was Nancy Brophy, and she was like devastated. Dan and Nancy had been married for 19 years. On the day of his death, Dan was 63 years old, Nancy Brophy, Nan Bro, 68 years old. Dan was the main breadwinner. As I said, he knew cooking, and he knew it good. Nancy had more artistic sensibilities. A native Texan, after graduating from both the University of Houston and the University of Indiana, she married a cop. That didn't work out for one reason or another. I haven't been able to find out too much about her first husband. But anyway, when that disintegrated, she up sticks and Nanbro moved to Oregon. She moved to Portland. And it was in that port on land that, in the early 90s, she attended a culinary institute, and it was there that she met Chef Dan Brophy. Now, it's not the same culinary institute as the one Dan worked at, but I guess, they met and they started bonding over food. Now, Dan, at the time in the early 90s when Nancy and Dan met, Dan, he was in fact married to another woman, and he had a son with her, but that later disintegrated. And Nancy Crampton would become Nancy Crampton Brophy in 1999. While Dan cooked, Nancy ran a catering company, though that too would flitter out. She later worked at Safe Money Smart, a pension company. But yada yada yada. Am I right? Because Nancy's real love was writing. Mad about it, so she was. And it is here that we meet her magnum opus series. Wrong Never Felt So Right. It never really sold well, it wasn't a mega hit. In fact, it was like, if a hit is here, it's like down here. Like down here would be where her books are.
And now, please welcome the newest feature on that chapter.
A new reoccurring feature called Mike's Power Hour, where Mike reviews the extended works of one Nancy Hot Dog Brophy. I say an hour, but it'll really be as long as I decide it'll be when I'm editing this. Probably a few minutes, to be honest. so I was unfortunate enough to subject myself to Nancy's Wrong Never Felt So Right series, a series beginning in 2011 till 2017. They, my dude, are about Navy SEALs. Yeah, Navy SEAls.
Ooh, Navy SEAls!
I read a lot of, I'm not going to say all because, come on. Of Nancy Brophy's books, so you don't have to. Virtually, by the way, because if you think I'm buying her paperbacks, you got another thing coming. And it was a challenge, probably the most difficult book report I've ever had to do because I'm subjecting myself to this shit. And one thing, this woman is horny. This woman is horny. Super horny. I think she's squarely aimed at the lobotomized minority. But you know what? Even if I'm not your target demographic, I can still, if art's not aimed towards me, I still feel like, I can appreciate it for what it is. I had my work cut out for me. Let's get into it. So the first book, Wrong Never Felt So Right, The Wrong Brother, is set in North Texas. And as the first book in the series, has the staples of all the books to come. Number 1 being horribly unlikable characters. Now, there's lots of media and books and TV shows, you can enjoy that feature horribly unlikable characters. But these ones are just boring. Book 1 features Zach Pritchard, ex-NASCAR driver, Navy SEAL, a little bit rapey. He's also a big fan of the phrase firm boot in the ass. Zach's a man who conquers and he will tell Missy what's what. It also revolves around Chloe LaRuse, which might be my favorite worst name ever. Also, she's his deadbeat brother's girlfriend. The brother is involved in drugs and shit, and spoiler alert, he dies in a ferocious car accident. Or does he? He doesn't. It's this whole, drugs, murder gang thing. It's lame as shit. The story starts off with Zach going back home for his sister's wedding, and it turns out his younger brother, Gordy, a drug-taking philanderer, and of course, Chloe's boyfriend, is up to no good, and Zach has to rescue Chloe and get revenge. At the end, the bad guy, the drug Stanley, he takes Chloe hostage, so Zach, he recruits his old SEAL team, which is great. And then, to get away, in the final climactic scene, the bad guy has the gun to Chloe's head, and she, stabs him with a knife, and gets away, and then, well, the book literally says, they opened fire and the bad guy exploded. But let me tell you something about this book, because, like all the books, each is filled with, juicy action, even juicier butts, hot chicks, beloved realistic characters, most of which who are buff ex-military dudes, and hometown gals just looking for a way out of their dreary lives. And if that doesn't excite you, there are even more tropes than that. If these were made into movies, which I hope they are, they wouldn't be straight to DVD, they'd be straight to the trash can. These books were written by someone who either knows nothing about writing, or is either ignorant of, or willfully ignoring the concept of something interesting. It's a very horny book. Not sexy in the slightest, about as sexy as you can imagine this woman coming up with. But the characters are constantly thinking and talking about sex. The very first conversation in the book is about how Chloe's boyfriend, Gordy, that's Zach's brother, won't bang her. Then it's Zach and Chloe staring at each other's boobs and butts, respectively. One time they bang, this is Chloe and Zach, and in the middle she literally faints. The whole book is basically just written as erotically as you can imagine. It was actually very difficult to read because I was just jerking off the entire time. Now, so what I said for that book, you can copy and paste for everything else in the series. They are all the same, and by that I mean they are the visual equivalent to waterboarding. Travis is the hero of book 2, another superhuman SEAL and complete trained operator who follows women around and kind of intimidates them into banging. It's weird. Portland is the setting. Nancy's hometown features in a few of her stories. This one begins with a whodunit. Here's some gems. He was a SEAL, a competent, intense warrior who protected the weak and disenfranchised, armed with an inherent hatred of those who picked on women and children. Clever women worried him because their agenda wasn't readily apparent. Her home was an old or 2-story duplex with a wide porch. Whoever said location, location, location had this in mind. This was her first experience seeing a handgun in action, making him the sexiest man she'd ever seen. Book 2 features Abigail, that's Nancy's self-insert character, a thriller writer. Other than that, the characters in all the books are more or less the exact same, just insert different details. but they're the exact same. Book 3, though, was a complete turn for Nancy, as she told the exact same story again. Book 4 features Austin and Nicole, who board the Costa Concordia, making the crash the second biggest disaster involving that cruise ship. Or Book 5, where Nancy checks notes. Ran out of names, because meet Sam Samson, who was, guess what, a former Navy SEAL. Basically, yeah, I think you get the gist of it. They're fucking funny. If you can get pick them for cheap, do read them, but that's enough of that. It's boring, who cares? Let's get back to Nancy, who thought she was in Wrong Never Felt So Right, Book 6.
So I just finished book 5, that's The Wrong Seal, and whoa boy, I think Sam might be my favorite character.
He's a seal, and he said he was attracted to her. He's homo.
It's a lot of shite.
But she wasn't in it for the money really at all. She was in it for the love of writing, which, as much as I'm here, taking the piss and just joking around, you can't fault that. She had her own website, nancybrophyauthor.com. Still there today. Writers are liars. I don't remember who said that, but it's not true. Wink wink. In writing fiction, you dig deep and unearth portions of your own life that you've long forgotten or had purposely buried deep. Granted, sometimes it is smarter to change the ending. That being said, let me add, this photo is a lie. I haven't looked like this for a while, but it is me. She wrote about giving advice as a published author, her love of the Great British Baking Show, of her books, and her upcoming appearances. You could also have her review your manuscript, 100 books for 12,000 words, or work on your story with you over the phone for $75 an hour. But what you, dear watcher, probably want to get into is more than likely what you've already heard of. The article she wrote. It was on another blog, a blog for female authors, and it was titled, How to Murder Your Husband. In the wider context, it's interesting reading, but it's pretty bland, to be fair. I don't really know why she wrote it. In November 2011, she wrote, As a romantic suspense writer, I spend a lot of time thinking about murder and, consequently, about police procedure. After all, if the murder is supposed to set me free, I certainly don't want to spend any time in jail. And let me say clearly for the record, I don't like jumpsuits and orange isn't my color. Well then, consider me interested. What's your motives, huh? Financial? This is big. Lying, cheating bastard? Fell in love with someone else? Abuser? It's your profession? Now we're talking. And then, how you gonna do it? Gun? Well, she says it's loud, messy. But then you got knives, garrote, random heavy piece of equipment, poison, hitman, lover. It's actually very short and doesn't really have many good tips. Ah, so that explains it. Dan and Nancy were supposedly inseparable over their long marriage, and there was never any signs of any friction or much to do with that. So, what happened to Dan? Nancy was devastated. She even posted about it on Facebook.
Had a heart of gold, and everybody here knows that. He was really a special human being. That's why we're all here.
They gathered outside the Oregon Culinary Institute for the man they called Chef Brophy. Co-workers, students, friends, and family. Daniel Brophy touched all of them.
Students who had arrived to a crime scene were devastated. Their beloved instructor, gone. There was a vigil, Nancy was there, but an investigation needed to begin. And it did. No one could think of any suspects from the get-go. It was difficult to wrap your noodle around, and weeks went by as the detectives trudged through what they could. Nancy was going through hell. She spoke of moving. She couldn't bear to be in that house anymore. Someone had followed Dan into that back kitchen, Kitchen 1, and murdered him that morning. Followed him in after the locks were open, the alarm was off, and no one else was around. Then, as Dan was getting ready, he was filling buckets for ice and for coffee for the students. Someone came into that kitchen, they shot him in the back, and then when he fell down, as he was lying on the ground, they shot him again, executing him. Now, just a few days after the murder of Chef Dan Brophy, 3 days, to be precise, Nancy Brophy called the lead detective, and she was asking for something very specific. She was like, here, come on, help me out. I need a letter from you, an official police letter that I can give to the insurance companies, saying that I'm officially not a suspect. She was looking for the good stuff. She told the police her husband had $40,000 on his policy.
I don't want to be the stupid question of the day, but I think I need to be the stupid question of the day. So my insurance company said, just have the detective write a letter that you're no longer a suspect. And I said, man, I just don't know that he's there. And I'm not sure that he looks at it that way. But if you do, I'd get you to write the letter.
Why would you need that?
Because they don't want to pay if it turns out that I secretly slipped down to the school and shot my husband.
Well, we never would do something like that. I've never heard of that being done.
This is such a stupid little policy. I can't believe they're making me jump through the hoops like this. This is only $40,000. And as my sister said, usually when they do that, it's for millions. And I said, yeah, we weren't insured for millions.
What she didn't tell the police was that he had more than one policy, adding up to about $800,000. Now, the police had not named anyone as a suspect in the murder of Dan Brophy. It had only been 3 days after. But if they haven't named anyone and it's this early, everyone is a suspect. And then when the detectives found the How to Murder Your Husband blog post, they wondered. They searched Nancy's house to dot the T's and cross the X's or whatever. This is something we see again and again and again. It's like when you think something's gone, it's really not. Dan was determined to have been murdered with a Glock handgun, and Nancy told the police she had a Glock handgun. Her and Dan had bought it not long before, but it hadn't been used. Never been used. Kinda sorta. The police learned that Nancy had been busy. She had been going around to various gun stores in the area and buying different parts of a Glock handgun, and then swapping them out so that it wouldn't be traceable. If she fired bullets, she could just swap the barrel and you couldn't tell it had been used. And CCTV from the surrounding businesses showed Nancy driving around the area of the Oregon Culinary Institute the time Dan was killed. She had said she was home. I find it is easier to wish people dead than to actually kill them. I don't want to worry about blood and brains splattered on my walls. And really, I'm not good at remembering lies. But the thing I know about murder is that every one of us have it in him or her when pushed far enough. Yes, Nancy.
Learning more about why police believe a local mystery writer shot and killed her husband last summer.
When she was arrested, she told officers, "You're arresting me? You must think I murdered my husband." Detectives later found this bookmarked page on the couple's iPhone account titled 10 Ways to Cover Up a Murder. In it, a suggestion that the best time to commit a crime is in the very early hours of the day when most people are asleep. Also, they found this essay Brophy wrote titled How to Murder Your Husband.
Nancy Brophy was arrested in September 2018. Over 3.5 years later, in April 2022, she went on trial. They had the gun, they had the footage, they had the lies, they had the life insurance policies. Nancy, I believe she had begun to fall in love with her own creations. She wanted the excitement that she wrote about. She wanted the money, she wanted to move somewhere exotic. Dan, not so much. He wasn't too keen on that. So, well, if she wanted to move somewhere exotic and she wanted the money, she couldn't have Dan. So Dan had to go. And she was thinking to herself, well, hey, I write about this sort of shit all the time. I'll be able to figure it out.
While Dan Brophy was alive, Nancy Brophy had a great listener, a wonderful lover, a consummate chef, and an entertaining travel partner. Most of all, she had an all-around best friend. She shared her life with a man who never failed to make her laugh. Nancy Brophy was blessed with a true partner who always looked out for her and always looked forward to a future with her, as she did him. After you've heard all the evidence in this case, we are certain that you will understand that Nancy Brophy did not kill her husband. Thank you.
She pleaded not guilty. The defense tried to say someone else did it, a homeless guy caught on CCTV. They said, money wasn't an issue. She didn't want the money and the amount in his life insurance policies would not be motive. It wasn't crazy. And Nancy herself got on up there. She didn't do great.
My name is Nancy Crampton Brophy. That's NANCYCRAMPTONBROPHY. Okay, and I have a real problem with this, and I have to apologize to you because what I do is I reconstruct based upon what I know would have happened, not what actually happened. So allow me to apologize for the fact that I am misleading you here, and that was not intentional.
She said any clues that pointed to her, the fact that she built her own gun. Well, come on guys, that was research for a book.
And so now you're a gun collector?
No. Now I have a piece of writing information research.
You said you didn't take any steps to try to build this gun.
I did not. You research everything to maybe come up with 6 sentences in a book that will make the book more realistic. So I do tons of research.
You do a lot of research.
I do. What I can tell you is it was for writing. It was not to, as you would have it, murder my husband.
To be fair, I would say my own search history is worrisome when I have to look up stuff I do for videos, so. What about her being on camera when she said she was home? Oh dear, she said, I forgot, I did drive to get a Starbucks.
You do agree that that is you at this point, right?
I do. That's what I was doing, was driving around writing. I testified to that yesterday, that I would find a place to park and I'd jot down ideas.
But there's no charge for Starbucks on the morning of June 2nd.
Yes, but if you go through my bank records, you will see there's no charge for Starbucks a lot of days when I know that I had coffee. If I had cash, I could have paid cash. Keep in mind that I don't have my purse with me because I'm not carrying a purse. I'm not wearing a bra, so I don't have a credit card with me. I don't have my phone with me, so I would have had cash and just given it to him.
She didn't do any better when she said things like this.
That's your version of what happened. That is not my version. The only thing I know for sure is I did not kill Dan. And I have no problem with that. I know I didn't kill Dan with the gun that was put together, the gun that wasn't put together, or the slide that we can't find. I think your case is held together with, real frankly, Band-Aids.
Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I think I'm done. Probably more than I want to be.
Isn't it possible?
I did not shoot my husband, and I don't know even how to defend myself against the truth,
Trying to defend herself from the truth, that's a good one.
Sorry.
Says, we, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn in the above entitled cause, do find our verdicts upon the counts submitted to us as follows. Count 1, murder in the second degree, guilty. And then with regards to the 2 questions, the state alleging that during the commission of this felony, the defendant caused or threatened the use of a firearm, the answer is yes.
Nancy Brophy was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Mrs. Brophy, if you can rise for sentencing. In Oregon, for the crime of murder in the second degree, the sentence is a life sentence. I'll order that you be considered for parole after 25 years.
She's currently 72, so that's a death sentence. And that's the story of Nancy Brophy. Well, to date, but I doubt there's going to be a whole lot of addendums to this one. The whole story is crazy. Her own books are more believable, and the writing is better in her own books than what she said in her own testimony. It's crazy. It's crazy that she wrote an article about how to murder your husband, though it seems she didn't listen to her own advice at all and did a pretty bad job at it, to be honest. Though swapping out parts for the guns was not a bad idea. It's a story of greed, one we see consistently. Life endurance, baby! How to beat it? Well, Nancy didn't beat this. And let me say clearly for the record, I don't like jumpsuits, and orange isn't my color. Too bad.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you doing so, being here with this guy. Listen, here, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next old video. You can see me earlier if you go onto Patreon. You can check out merch. You can do all that stuff in links down below. But until then, well, listen, take care of each other and yourselves. Because I love you. Mike out.